Dangote commends President Tinubu's UK diplomacy, raises oil crisis concerns.
Africa is very busy paying debt, and putting this again on top of us is going to add a lot of hardship.
Vice President Shatima welcomes Fintiri to APC fold in Yola.
We salute your work ethic, and we look forward to forging a partnership that advances not just Adamawa State, but the entire nation.
Former Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai to be arraigned for money laundering, abuse of office.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on sustaining the fight against insurgency.
Nigeria has been grappling with insurgency, particularly Boko Haram and Banditry, for over a decade. The conflict has led to significant humanitarian crisis, displacement and economic instability.
Indeed, Boko Haram emerged in 2009, seeking to establish an Islamic State in Nigeria. The group gained notoriety for attacks on civilians, schools and government institutions.
The Nigerian military launched operations to counter the insurgency with support from regional and international partners. Despite successes, the group has adapted using tactics like bombings, kidnappings, and guerrilla warfare.
Insurgent groups, including Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa province, ISWAP, remain active in northeastern Nigeria. Banditry and kidnapping have spread to other parts of the country, including the northwest and central regions.
The humanitarian impact is significant, with millions displaced and many more in need of food, shelter, and health care.
The Nigerian military continues to conduct operations against insurgent groups with support from regional forces like the Multinational Joint Task Force.
Improved intelligence gathering and sharing have helped disrupt insurgent networks. Efforts to engage local communities, promote dialogue and provide basic services aimed to address grievances and reduce support for insurgents.
Also, initiatives to boost economic growth, create jobs and improve infrastructure can help reduce poverty and inequality. Factors that contribute to insurgency collaboration with neighboring countries and international partners is crucial to combat cross-border movements and financing of insurgent groups.
Amidst the chaos, there is a glimmer of hope. We'll explore the efforts to sustain the fight against insurgents, from military operations to community engagement, and ask what's working, what's not, what's next. I am Ademola Adeoye. Thank you for starting your day with us.
Indeed, the question, what's next, is very critical at this point, of course. I'm Ian Ray John. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. We're reaching right here at our headquarters in Abuja. In the course of the program, Chukwudi Okolie Ugbaja will join us for newspaper review. But for now, we're being joined by the pretty Zenret Dinkbun, who is ready to serve the morning news. Zenret, good morning. What's good in the news?
Good morning, Yenri Ademola. We'll get to it just in a moment. Thanks for joining us on the news. Now, Africa may be the worst hit should the war by the US and Israel on Iran continues. The president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, said this while fielding questions from the State House correspondents in Lagos. Dangote, who visited President Bola Tinubu at his Lagos residence, said the level of development in Africa is not enough to absorb the ripple effect of the current volatility in the energy sector for too long.
Very busy paying debt, and putting this again on top of us is going to add a lot of hardship on people, on the government, on the people, on everybody, you know, for something that we have no really any involvement in it. If you look at it now, you know, when you talk about energy, energy affects almost everything, you know, and it's not only energy. Some people will try and take a chance and say, this is an opportunity, so let me make money, you know. So if this thing doesn't de-escalate, it is going to keep going up and up and up, and governments cannot really now go and add salaries also. So people will really feel the hinge. People who are now doing, you know, barbers, people who are doing bread, people who have industries, who have to fire their own generator. You know, I mean, you can see in some countries today what they've done, they ask everybody to work from home. So I pray, and we all need to pray that this thing de-escalates. If it doesn't de-escalate, you know, normally we in Africa, we don't have any reserves in terms of savings or in terms of this. And so people normally go out and look for money for the next day or for the even same day, some of them. If they don't work that day, they won't eat. So I think really we just need all hands on deck to pray that this thing comes to an end.
Borno state government has announced plans to rebuild Goshe village in Goza local government area following its destruction by Boko Haram ISWAP insurgents. Governor Babagana Umar Zulum unveiled the plan during an assessment visit to the community as part of his 2-day engagement in the area.
Recent times, I haven't seen such kind of devastation. It's a sheer madness. But inshallah, we shall build back better.
And senior police officers who fail in their supervisory role will be sanctioned. Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu gave the charge to newly promoted Assistant Inspectors General and Commissioners of Police at the Force Headquarters, Abuja. Now, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, and the Vice President of the European Union Commission, Kaya Kallas, have turned a new leaf. At the 8th Nigeria-EU Ministerial Dialogue, concluded here in Abuja, both sides moved beyond diplomatic formalities to tackle the pressing issues that will define future cooperation for the two countries.
We see the damage of irregular migration on all sides and the polarization of communities in parts of Europe. My own ministry is working hard to create a framework for dialogue to tackle the traffickers and improve oversight and regulation. The solutions are not easy, but the costs of failure are far, far higher.
Not only are we being supported strongly around our core technological objectives through the Global Gateway, which includes, of course, our ambitious goal of laying 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable across Nigeria, which the EU is supporting directly with grants, but also the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is also investing about $100 million into that project.
Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, has advised the U.S. and African countries to prioritize establishment of regional energy hubs as a strategic pathway to accelerate cross-border mining industrialization and strengthen the supply chain of critical minerals essential for the global energy transition. Speaking at a high-level panel at the ongoing Powering Africa Summit in Washington, D.C., United States, Alake emphasized that sustainable partnership with Africa remains the fastest route to meeting rising global demands for critical minerals. He called for the development of regional industrial corridors, noting that similar belts, such as the Lagos-Abidjan corridor, could unlock vast mineral potential across the continent. He highlighted reforms in the sector and measures to address insecurity in the mining industry.
Weaponized locals. These weapons, AK-47 and the like, RPGs and stuff, are not manufactured locally. They come from external destinations. Now, security of teaming for title holders or mining license holders, it's been a critical issue. So we reviewed all of this and brought in policy initiatives, new reforms. So now, for security of tenure, we say once you've fulfilled all the criteria and requirements for allocation of titles, your title will be secured at least for a minimum of 30 to 50 years.
Our Federal High Court in Abuja has convicted and sentenced former Acting Accountant General of the Federation, Anamekwe Nwabuoku, to 72 years imprisonment for money laundering. The presiding judge, Justice James Omotosho, gave the order on Monday, having found the defendant guilty in a 9-count charge filed against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Omotosho held that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has proved its case against Nwabuoku. Nwabuoku was arraigned on a 9-count amended charge bordering on money laundering and fraud to the tune of 868 million naira. He was granted bail in the sum of 500 million naira with 2 shorties in like sum. Nwabuoku was convicted on all 9 counts and sentenced to 8 years imprisonment on each count, amounting to a cumulative 72 years. The court, however, ordered that the sentences run concurrently. Omotosho described Nwabuoku's diversion of funds meant for security and defense while serving as Director of Finance and Accounts at the Ministry of Defense as appalling. The judge also commended the EFCC for what he described as a meticulous prosecution of the case. Meanwhile, the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and Joel Adoga are to be arraigned before the Federal High Court in Kaduna Judicial Division today, Tuesday, 24th March 2026. In the charge, the duo as defendants will be facing trial on counts ranging from conversion of and possession of public property as well as money laundering. During the arraignment before the Federal High Court in Kaduna, Nasir El-Rufai and Joel Adoga will be expected to take their pleas. Similarly, Nasir El-Rufai and Amadou Sule will also be arraigned before the High Court of Kaduna State. In this charge, Nasir El-Rufai and his co-defendants are being alleged of abuse of office, fraud, and intent to commit fraud. No date has, however, been fixed for the arraignment of the 2 defendants on the matter before the State High Court in Kaduna. And those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Iyenre after this commercial break. Please stay tuned.
Rebound medical infrastructure, undertrained and underpaid health workers. Just a few of the decades-long challenges that have bedeviled the Nigerian health sector for too long. But the story appears to be changing in recent times. Over the past few years, the Nigerian government has gone to the front lines of deficiency across the sector with a mandate for change to ensure that the Nigerian people get the world-class health care they deserve in the quality of facilities they have long demanded. I am Kayla Megwa.
Join me as I traverse the front lines, conducting critical on-site analysis and examining not just long-standing challenges, but cross-sectional solutions proffered by those presently responsible for development in Nigeria's health sector.
We locate the vital signs on the front lines every Friday evening on NTA Network.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
You make choices every day. Your essential routine shouldn't be one of them. Start with Nivea Men Deep Body Lotion with Max Tech, powered by Black Carbon, that gives you 48 hours moisture. Then, lock in that powerful dark wood scent with Nivea Men Deep Roll-On with Max Tech that gives you 72 hours sweat and odor protection. Skin is for playing it smart. Nivea is for skin. Nivea Men, proud sponsors of Real Madrid.
Guys, food is ready.
Suitable for jollof rice, stew, spaghetti, and yam portage. Cook to impress.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Once upon a time, there was a land plagued by blandness. Food had lost its flavor and there was nothing left to savor. Just then, the tastemaker arrives to restore taste to this land of blandness. All she did was sprinkle, stir, and serve. And from that day on, they knew one truth. All they need is sprinkle, stir, serve.
Tastemaker. Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Peacebuilding Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath.
Get whiter teeth with a new Peacebuilding Natural Charcoal Toothpaste.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wherever life takes you, home is who you share iftar with. Ramadan Mubarak from Terra.
Supramalt Junior. Being mommy. Simplified.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
Heartburn is caused by stomach acid rising. Gaviscon Double Action neutralizes this and forms a barrier to stop them rising for up to 4 hours. Gaviscon.
It's the Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And up next is Newspaper Review.
Yeah, newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja is here. Good morning, Chooks.
Hello, Demola. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good morning. Yere, good morning.
Good morning, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
Same here. How's home?
Very well. How's yours too?
One day at a time.
Yeah, sure. Let's get into what the papers have this morning. We'll begin with the blueprint. The blueprint leads with terrorists blow a bridge in Niger, kill 8, impose 150 million naira tax. The writer says many fear death as explosion rocks Kwara community. Police debunk report of drowned 150 bandits in Sokoto River. All right. Of course, the story on the ex-Attorney General of the Federation is also right here, 72 years in jail over 868 million naira fraud. And above the masthead, Ogun is the kicker. Police arraign NYSC official linked to core member's death. That's on page 9. You want to find out what that is about. A copy of the blueprint will do you good. And oil prices plummet 8%. Trump postpones Hormuz deadline threat by 5 days. That's on page 22. And looking below the picture story, we have ICPC arraigns El-Rufai in Kaduna today for alleged fraud, abuse of office. Traders sacked teachers, Hill trial over job losses. Interesting times ahead, I assure you, looking at that issue. But away from that now, we have no emperor has power to decide elections for Benue people. That's according to the governor of Benue State, Governor Hyacinth Alia, and that's on page 16. On the grain strip, we have analysts raise the alarm. Excess cash pushes banking liquidity to 8.06 trillion naira. That's on page 22. And in Enugu, police detain man for raping pregnant woman. That's on page 13. Not a good one at all. And that's about it on the front page of the blueprint this morning. Let's look at what the whistlers, the whistler is whistling this morning. It says ICPC to arraign El-Rufai in Kaduna over fraud, money laundering. That's the Borders caption, and that can be read on page 7. The writer says Article 6 ex-Kaduna governors release. You want to find out why? Page 16 will guide you. Above the masthead, rising oil prices threaten growth, stability in Nigeria. All right, and Trump backs down on Iran power strikes, orders 5-day pause. And below the picture story, we have Makinde Kwankwaso may align with ADC amid PDP NNPP crisis. The writer says Makinde rules out alliance with Wike bloc over Tinubu backing. That's on page 7. Of course, 2027 is just ahead of us. 8 feared dead as terrorists bomb Niger bridge. Military strikes, Toji's hideouts, kill scores of bandits. That's on page 6. And then how scavengers use abandoned Nasarawa building to commit crime is also right here. And the police says we are unaware. Page 21. Interesting. Finally, on the front page of the Whistler, Barawa takes over NURTW Secretariat, displaces MC Olomo. That's on page 20. All right, so I should hand over to the Lagos big boy.
Okay, the Daily Trust, I won't comment on that. The Daily Trust newspaper, just below that nameplate, ex-acting accountant general jailed 8 years for fraud. Details on page 7. World TB Day, sufferers battle stigma, drugs burden. Details of that story can be found on page 18. APC Tinubu support groups urge national leadership to uphold Bauchi State Congress results. And the major headline reads, EFCC seals Malami's houses. ICPC arraigns El-Rufai today. Details of those two stories can be found on page 3 and 4. PDP risk losing out in 2027, Sule Lamido. And that is on page 5. IED kills driver in Kwara, terrorist bomb bridge in Niger. Kwankwaso in talks with ADC, NDC over realignment. Details of that story can be found on page 10. Oil prices tumble after Trump dropped plan to bomb Iran's power plants. Chooks.
Well, the Iranians are saying that there is nothing like talks going on between them and America. Well, they qualified it. There was an adjective there, no direct talks. I think something is happening because Pakistan has actually been mentioned, and the American VP is actually named as one of the people to. Both sides are tired. That's the truth. Trump didn't know he was going to run into this level of, resilience on the part of the Iranians. Yes, he's done a lot to degrade them militarily. You know, I don't think they have any warship, any naval presence at all. But somehow they've showed the Americans that this is our land, and you're not going to push us over easily. And the initial hope that once we move in on these leaders of Iran, the people will say, oh, help us come, and turn against them. It's not happening. So he's looking for an exit plan. You know, I hope for the sake of oil, oh no, please, that's not courteous to human lives lost. I hope for the sake of humanity that the war ends. Then the benefit, economic benefit as the Strait of Hormuz will open again, and then Chukwudi will stop buying fuel at 1,300 naira per liter.
No, 300 naira. 300 is now
got there?
1,400.
So please, don't. You want me to collapse in the studio here? I'm up anyway. You know, let's pray that it all comes to an end. It does. You know, this NYSC person, official, they said he aided somebody to procure an abortion in the process. The NYSC, the copper died and all that. You know, you mean those things still happen? We used to hear stories like that when we were growing up. You know, it's unfortunate. Really unfortunate. World TB Day, please, March 24 every year. It commemorates awareness campaigns, prevention efforts, diagnosis and treatment, and also it helps us remember the efforts of Dr. Robert Koch, who discovered the TB bacterium in 1882. You know, when I see people amass wealth, I look at them and say, there's no amount of wealth you'll amass that will make us forget the man who invented the electric bulb, the man who found out that a bacterium was causing, tuberculosis. It's so wonderful. Those who help humanity are people you'll never forget. Forever. They'll stay there in your mind. So, in our own backyard here, what we need to look at is how much we are doing. I think TB is no longer the killer it was way back in time. But have we sustained effort to keep this health hazard?
And the issue of stigmatization as well.
That would always be there. It would always be there, mainly due to lack of awareness. That's why awareness is as important as treatment, diagnosis, and the rest of it. Here in Africa, even people who tell you they have 2 degrees discriminate against people they should not, either on health, on health reasons, or even social considerations. It's unfortunate, you know. I pray that awareness, when you actually isolate a man or woman on account of a disadvantage they suffer, it's misery.
It is.
It's misery unquantifiable.
It is.
It doesn't enhance the healing process. It has a way of,
of course,
diminishing how the person feels.
Yes, because the psychological edge to your healing is almost as important as what the medication would do.
Sure.
Doctor, you tell the doctor, please help my cousin. He's in a bad way, and the doctor says, I've done all I can for him. It's now left for him to fight. It's not. No,
not a physical.
I shall not die. You know, those are very important.
The psychological. Okay.
You know?
Ex-acting accountant general jailed, and anyways, the 72 years, but he's going to actually spend 8 years.
It's running concurrently.
Yeah.
What I am happy about is that I still hear talk about fighting corruption. I don't make no bones about praising the president and his team over certain things I feel are reforms we should applaud, however hard things are. But I'm one of those who feel that the fight on corruption should pick up more vigor. Yes, it's not just arraign people. We're hearing now that El-Rufai is appearing in court.
In court today.
Yes. Then Malami, his residences were sealed yesterday. You know, look, this life. Attorney General, debating whether court papers are valid concerning, look, life is somehow. Well, let him defend himself, prove his innocence. If he's culpable, let him, serve punishment for it. It's a case in court.
It's a case in court.
All right, Chukwudi, the director says it's time to go. Thank you so much for your time and your analysis today.
Wednesday.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll get into our conversation for today. Stay with us.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Full House Refreshment is goodness to go round. The Peak Yogurt Drink 1 liter Full House pack with more refreshment, which contains fresh cow milk. Enjoy Full House goodness filled with essential vitamin and minerals. Peak, reach for your peak.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria.
Coleman!
Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on malaria gone.
Heartburn is caused by stomach acid rising. Gaviscon Double Action neutralizes this and forms a barrier to stop them rising for up to 4 hours. Gaviscon.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
You have no better friend and partner than Nigeria. Let this unveiling today be a call to conscience. Let our practitioners hold the line of truth. To the media, please inform with integrity and with a deep sense of patriotism. To our public officers, communicate with transparency. To citizens, please let us speak with empathy. Let us come together to become the voice of responsibility, the voice of the world that heals division, that inspires hope and drives development.
Well, thanks for remaining tuned. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we get into our conversation for today, which is on sustaining the fight against insurgency, let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The fight against insurgents has been said to be an headlong assignment which must be achieved at all costs. With efforts and measures put in place and exerted, many believe the fight against insurgency seemed to be won by the Nigerian military. Since the inception of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, a lot has been invested in the fight, especially financially and materially, and more results seems to be quite evident. Recently, the troops of Operation Well Struck intensified efforts against the kidnapping in Benue State, resulting in successful rescuing of 12 victims in coordinated intelligence-driven operations between 8th and 15th March 2026. Across Upper Agatu and Katsina Ala local government areas, troops responded swiftly to credible intelligence, forcing kidnappers to flee and abandon their captives under sustained pressure. Key operations led to multiple rescues, including victims recovered along major routes and from identified criminal hideouts. Troops of 7 Guards Battalion, Guards Brigade, Nigerian Army, in conjunction with elements of the Nigerian Police Force and local vigilantes, also successfully rescued 19 kidnapped victims during a coordinated search and rescue operation conducted around Gidan Dogo in Buari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory. Troops of the Chief of Air Staff Special Intervention Battalion 7, in conjunction with 8th Division Strike Team, operating under the Joint Task Force Northwest Operation Fasanyama, have eliminated terrorists at Kandam Forest, recording a significant operational success following a decisive engagement with a notorious terrorist network affiliated with Lakurawa terrorists in Tangaza local government area of Sokoto State. Aside these, troops of the Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai have decisively foiled a coordinated ISWAP attacks on forward operating bases in Mayanti, Gajingana and Gajiram while intensifying offensive operations across Sector 2. The failed assaults underscore the growing desperation of terrorist elements under sustained pressure on their enclaves, logistics corridors, and leadership structures. While the attack on Gajingana was successfully thwarted, troops maintained full control of their position. The encounters of Mayanti and Gajiran resulted in significant terrorist casualties and the recovery of substantial combat equipment. Over time, the president has successfully secured the support of foreign allies who have expressed readiness to help Nigeria to quash the menace. Scores of terrorists and kidnappers have over the years been killed, though some gallant officers as well paid the ultimate price. But as they say, the momentum of the fight must unrelentlessly continue without holding back. But what more should be done to sustain the fight against insurgents? What are the roles of the citizens themselves? Our guests in the studio will be answering these questions and more shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report and for those questions that you have raised. And I'm sure that our guests are here already, and they'll be able to provide answers to those questions. Joining us to begin our conversation, which borders on sustaining the fight against insurgents, let me first introduce Brigadier General Sani Usman Kukashika, former Army spokesperson and MNI. General, it's good to have you join us.
Good morning. Quite a long time, Ademola. How are you doing?
Very well, very well.
Good to see you.
It's not that long. We had it this year.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks like ages.
Okay. Also joining us for today's conversation, we have Dr. Kabil Adamu. He's the Managing Director of Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, and also a security risk management expert. Dr. Adamu, good to have you.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning.
All right. Good morning.
All right. It's Men Affair this morning, talking about security. And also joining us for the conversation is Patrick Agambu, a security expert. It's a pleasure to have you join us, sir.
It's a pleasure, yeah.
Okay, let's start with the general. Just last week, there was a series of reports of the successes recorded by the armed forces in the fight against insurgencies. And although there are some casualties here and there, but at least they are making inroad. Let's look at the state. Let's just look at the current state of insurgency in Nigeria. How has it evolved, in recent times?
Well, your definition of recent, how recent is recent? That's the question.
Over the years.
Okay. You look at it for the past 16 years or thereabout, we have been contending with the issue of insurgency, ostensibly by Boko Haram and its 2 splinter groups, and Saradin and ISWAP, as the case may be. has evolved over time. If you look at what happened at the beginning, 2009, 2010, up to 2015, it was most unprecedented when Boko Haram had held sway, coveting territories, displacing people, and quite a lot of, destruction and loss of lives and properties. In fact, there is no single infrastructure, particularly in some parts of Borno State, that is in existence. In fact, not even street lamp, talk less of business premises, courts, schools, and everything. But as time goes on, concerted effort by the troops and, of course, the government led to, dislodgement of all this insurgents, to the point that the caliphate was dismantled and consigned to Sambisa and fringes of Sambisa, Lake Chad region. But of course, given the nature of the insurgency and the fact that it's a transborder activity, and more so that they have paid allegiance to most noted terror groups across the globe, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, you see some kind of copycat and all the rest of them. But what brought about all these things are something that we need to really address. The truth is that when you are faced with existential threat, insurgency of that nature, there is a need to mobilize the whole gamut of the Nigerian society so that each and every one of us will be on the same page. Okay. The problem is that, especially at the beginning, the farther away you are from the geolocation of the epicenter of the insurgency, the farther away you are associated with the problem. Take, for instance, even in the northern part of the country, quite a number of people thought that it's a northeast issue, but even among that, there is a tribal element, that it is Kanuri issue or it is Borno issue, not knowing that actually it requires collective effort, and it is not the insurgents by the security forces, particularly the Nigerian army. And so the understanding was not there in the first place. And if you recall, the abduction of Chibok girls in 2014, there are kind of different, perception about the issue, and we lost the momentum about the rescue, and up to this moment, some of them are still with this criminal element. So basically, this is the way you look at it. But beyond that again, when we are talking about insurgency, we are talking about a situation whereby the kinetic aspect or, the security forces effort is well, I won't say an insignificant percentage, but it's just one aspect of it. There are other aspects that need to be, dealt with, that go hand in glove with the kinetic effort, addressing the root causes of this. Because right from the beginning, the Boko Haram insurgency did not start as insurgency. It was more or less like a deviant group, not satisfied with certain things. So you cannot be oblivious of the issues of social injustice, economic deprivation, and all the rest. You need to go to these places and understand the level of infrastructural development or otherwise, the issue of governance and all the rest. So need to also be addressed along this aspect. And that is why you are talking, the way you are talking, that it has evolved over time to the extent of. But if you look at it, I think so far so good to the extent that here in Abuja, right from, let's say you take anywhere, either right, left, front and back, less than 2 to 3 kilometers, you have about 4 to 5 checkpoints within Abuja, the federal capital. And almost every symbol of democracy and security and civilization has been desecrated. You look at the UN building, you look at the police headquarters, you look at the Mogadishu cantonment, you look at commercial entities, Nyanyabos terminal, Barnex Plaza. I'm not even talking about worship centers. I'm not talking about the media this day. And I was even in Kaduna when they also attacked newspapers and premises and all the rest. So basically, when you look at it, now this thing has been to a large extent been dealt with. And when you juxtapose it or compare it with other countries, take for instance Colombia, contended with insurgency for 58 years. And I can dare say, within the 15 years or 16 years that we have been contending with it, we are able to make progress more than what they have done in 30 years. But that does not mean that it is yet uhuru. So much needs to be done. Take, for instance, harmonization of effort. We'll be talking about Borno's Borno initiative. I think we need to really galvanize the Nigerian society and let there be, you know, harmonization between the federal, state, and the local government. Okay. You know, there are initiatives to deal with these issues. Take, for instance, Operation Sub-Corridor. So it is not, then, again, it is not just the security forces or the government's responsibility alone. But, of course, the government takes the lead because there is need for security education. There is need to mobilize the people, but most importantly, to empower the people so that they can, you know, perform creditably, because there is deficit of trust between the led and those that are leading. So, so that everybody should have a greater sense of responsibility that will look at himself or herself as partner in progress in dealing with security challenges, in fact, the development of this country.
All right, many thanks, Brigadier General Kuka Sheka, for your opening comment. Indeed, you have touched, you know, different aspects of this issue, insurgency in Nigeria, and thank you for taking us back and, you know, the devastation so far. But I'd like to get to Dr. Adamu. You know, listening to Brigadier General Kuka Sheka, what comes to my mind is, are we truly winning the war against insurgency? The steps that we have taken so far, are we just managing it? Are we in the right direction? Does it look like there's an end to this?
Yes, there should and there would be an end to it. However, I think what is very important is to always do an evaluation, so we're very clear about where we are. There are instruments that we have in place for addressing what I would describe as the poly-crisis that Nigeria has in its hands. General Kuka Sheka has described some aspects of that poly-crisis. If you put the map of Nigeria in front of you with the 36 states, 774 local governments, over 8,000 wards, for each the component, depending on the level you go to, you identify that there are different threat elements within those locations. Some of these threat elements are organized, others are a bit more disorganized. And so the question is, have we sat down to evaluate where we are in terms of addressing these threat elements? Most of what General Kuka Sheka referred to, based on your question, is insurgency. What types of insurgencies do we have at play at the moment? Some of them, of course, are affiliated with the terrorist group, which General Kuka Sheka spoke about, but there are others that are not so clear, perhaps on the borderline, even though very recently the president was very clear in saying anyone who kills Nigerians is categorized under that terrorist group. We have instruments for addressing the terrorism challenge. We have the National Counterterrorism Strategy. We have the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Law Act, as it were, amended in 2022. So what level of evaluation have we do to say this is what we've been able to implement? If I pick the National Counterterrorism Strategy as an example, with its 5 elements, the ability to detect, the ability to deny, the ability to even predict where a new terrorist group is going to emerge. Now at the moment, we've got roughly, I think, about 3 fronts to the terrorism challenge. The Northeast is there, which is well documented. Very recently, the Northwest also emerged, where the Lakurawa group, but then also the North Central, where for the first time in our history, a group that is based in the Sahel, JNIM, claimed responsibility for an attack in Kwara and Niger State. So we have those multi-fronts that we need to address. Now, to answer your question directly, the fact that we're seeing a dislocation, as it were, of these threat issues, the epicenter used to be the Northeast, but now we're seeing a dislocation into parts of Northwest, North Central. I mean, should be a wake-up call and should concern us. The theater is spreading. The military expert would discuss that. It is really spreading. It would be usually easier to address the challenge in one theater, which is not small, by the way, the Northeast, with its 6 states, and with the epicenter being Borno State, and then down into the Lake Chad region as you expand into parts of Chad and Niger. Now the theater has expanded into parts of northwest as well as part of north central. Just yesterday we monitored 3 IED incidents, in 2 in Niger and then 1 in Kwara State. So those are worrisome developments, and from the point of view of evaluation, it tells us that yes, like General Kuka Sheka mentioned, we've advanced, we've made progress, we've been able to contain to a large extent the challenge as it affects the Northeast, even though there was a recent resurgence. But then we're seeing a spread into other parts of the country. And so all the elements that he spoke about, the so-called all of government and all of society approach, we need to make sure in our evaluation we address the gaps. What has led to this dislocation? What has led to this new spread? How can we contain the challenge? And I think it's very instrumental to mention just on the 19th of this month, the Institute for Economic and Peace released the Global Terrorism Index, and that report is instrumental. I think every policy maker should read that report. It had a good section on Nigeria and identified, of course, everybody is, I think, familiar now. We lost 2 places from 6th, we are now at 4th. It identified why there's that deterioration. It mentioned the element of governance as an example, especially in the rural areas, just for the purpose of, I think, just clarification. In terrorism, you have 3 elements. You have the government, then you have the bad guys, and then in the middle, you have influence. The government is trying to maintain influence on the people, because that's governance actually. But then the bad guys are also trying to snatch that influence. Now, what that report said is let us as a people in Nigeria enhance our ability to exercise influence on the people through good governance. And the beauty of what that report tried to do is it gave the example of Iraq, which saw the most progress in fighting terrorism within the 5 years that the report uses to produce the index. Iraq has emerged as, quote and unquote, the flag bearer in terms of progress. So I think for us as policymakers, maybe why don't we look at what Iraq rather has done, not Iran, to enhance influence within the public space. Just to clarify, this point better, recently we saw 3 bombing incidents in Borno State. Targeting public places. But it's shocking. When I did my sentiment analysis using social media platforms, I don't think I found one criticism targeted against the perpetrators of the attack. Most of the criticism was targeted at government. So you can understand where influence, these groups have been able to manipulate the process in such a way that the average Nigerian is more condescending as well. He criticizes the government for inability to protect him, and not the attacker for going to a public space and killing innocent people. So this is an aspect of strategic communication. That's why when we're looking at this issue of terrorism or insurgency, we need to look at all the components. Of course, one of the key components, strategic communication. How have we engaged the people in terms of our influence to make them understand that those are the bad guys, and that whenever something happens, we should rally around as a people. Even the media, as an example, what these guys want is publicity. How do we deny them that publicity? Or how do we even use that space to support the intelligence that government requires? So all these are components that I think in the course of our conversation, hopefully we will look deeper into. But bottom line, officially, I don't think we have done a critical evaluation using M&E components with key performance indicators to now tell us this is where we're doing well, and these are the areas that we need to improve upon.
So we need to
a certain journalist did an amazing job after the bombing in Maiduguri. She went out and was able to interview the victims, and a lot of intelligence came out from that interview. We were able to know the methodology of the attack. We were able to know to an extent the identity of the attackers. And one of the things that occurred to me listening to that interview was asking myself, did our public security agencies debrief those victims to gather that kind of intelligence? So I hope we get kind of where I'm going to in terms of evaluation, to tell ourselves this is the areas we're doing well and these are the areas we need to improve on. If we're going to bring this to an end, then that kind of evaluation is necessary. Of course, we're doing well in certain areas, but we're doing poorly in other areas as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Adamu. Critical evaluation of the happenings. And you've raised a very important issue there, which General also talked about, the issue of trust. And also the problem of social, economic, and political, challenges that we are facing is also part of it. And just like the General said, the harmonization of efforts also. Well, let's bring in Mr. Agbamo. From your own perspective, how do you think this can be addressed?
It's a trust deficit is the biggest problem we have in Nigeria. The citizens not trusting the government, and to extension, even the security agencies not being trusted by the citizens because of the lack of government action, government not providing the basic needs. During his intro, he talked about infrastructure in most of all those areas. When you look at the areas where we are experiencing the serious challenges, you find out that there are no infrastructures, basically close to nothing or very few. Some that are there are decaying and needs attention, and yet government is not doing so. The peoples are already detached from government. They depend on self-help most of the time, and that also gives room. Of course, there's a vacuum, and the non-state actors quickly key in and provide what can be seen to be some succor. And
is that the reason why these days, I mean, because we read in the papers yesterday, one of the sects, is it from Niger State now, asking a community to provide 150 million so that they will be protected, of course, and they will not be attacked.
Yes, and of course, and the communities will gladly do it for fear of being attacked, because they have lost trust in government protecting them and even the security agencies to that extent. And this is why we're having the biggest challenge. He talked about no criticism against perpetrators, because to them, government basic responsibility is the protection, and to them, government had failed in that regard. So they believe that those non-state actors that are even killing us, once they say they can protect us, let us go ahead, and they gladly do that. And that is the biggest challenge in this fight, when the victims are now dancing towards the aggressors and believing that is where their protection comes. The Lakara group we're talking about came in as to save, to help. Today they have become a big problem in the communities, and they are spreading. The biggest challenge to all this, just like the doctor said, is the spreading. And now it has created a lot of challenges. That how do you handle it? And if we are not very careful, there are still vulnerability in some other regions in the country. And that is why we must, as a people, not just the government or the security forces, put hands together. There must be coordination of efforts to ensure that this thing is taken care of. It's more of social solution than kinetic operations, and that is what must be done immediately.
All right, what must be done immediately? Thank you, Mr. Patrick Agambo. Let's get back to Brigadier General Kukasheka now. When Dr. Kabiru spoke, he talked about the spread from one region to another. When you spoke earlier, you said we are making progress. So I'm thinking, if we're making progress, then how come the insurgents are spreading? And if you like, causing a lot of damage, because I mean, if you want to look at over the years, although you say, well, the effort we have made in a way has been able to balance out some of the strikes by these insurgent groups, but trust by the people is, away from government. So if really the government or the Nigerian state is doing so much to fight this, like you have said, that we're making progress, then why the spread?
Quite a number of factors could be attributed to that. First and foremost, if you go back to what I said earlier, when you are faced with an existential threat such as insurgency, you need to galvanize and mobilize the Nigerian society so that everybody will be on the same page. That is one. And secondly, there are supporting elements to counter-insurgency efforts. Basically, the kinetic, which is both on the grounds, or the security aspect of it, is just one out of the other things that need to be done. Now, over time, we tend to rely heavily on the security forces, particularly the military. The military, they don't live with the society. Theirs is when issue emanate or come about, you deploy the military to deal with it decisively. You have an entry and exit strategy. But unfortunately, in our own case, we have neglected time-tested conflict resolutions mechanism. We allow things to, escalate the way they are. Take, for instance, we talked, Dr. Kabiru and, of course, Mr. Apangba had made mention of the fact that the issue of governance, reiterating what I said earlier, and, of course, the issue of trust. Now, what is the level of relationship among the various components of Nigerian society, to the extent that we don't bring these extraneous variables when it comes to security issues? Within a particular state, for instance, there are divergent issues about security, so much politicization. So sometimes when there are serious issues, people don't seem to understand that really it is not just about the government, but also the whole society, as it were. Those are the kind of aspect. Then the other aspect is the fact that we have 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local government. Now, you know it and I know it. The components that work must basically are the federal and state government. Actually, the 774 local governments and 8,000 Kabir has mentioned, they are basically on paper. Now, bulk of you can pinpoint all the security challenges emanating from particular communities. Now, look at it. From what he has even said, all the way from other countries and people, the Lakura and all the rest of them, what brought about that? Had it been that the local government system is working, the people of Gada, the people of Sabon Birni would have resorted to the mechanism put in place by a Nigerian constitution, the local government system, they will know. It may interest you to know, some time ago, in Niger State, there was a time a particular NGO decided to construct a primary school for a particular community, barely 4 kilometers from the local government headquarters. But I can rest assure you, the local government chairman does not even know where that village is. So these are the kind of problems. No, so if there are security challenges, people do not even know where to go to. Or when they talk about it, they will just dismiss it. Because these things did not happen overnight. Over time there were. And of course, there were instances, a particular part of this country, somebody came and settled in that community and decided that, look, your culture, your religions were archaic, that this is not the way. In fact, he was saying that the way they are burying people was wrong. And he claimed to be a Muslim. And in fact, you look at a 50-something years old, 60 years, that the name they gave him was wrong, that he needs to change his name. Nobody raised any flag. The next thing, other set of people. And the same thing, what happened you remember the first attack there, when they threatened that traditional ruler. The people came, they intermingled with society and told them that they should not, male and female should not be bathing in the stream. So what happened to the imam? What happened to the community leaders and all the rest of the thing? Whom do they talk to? So these are some aspects. Then, of course, the government itself. You have to have a blueprint. Yes, thankfully, we have a good legal framework and all the rest. But what things do we have in place to ensure the implementation of these laws? And how many people have been prosecuted to the satisfaction. You know, what's brought about all these issues is simply because of the lack of rule of law. Because if you know that if you commit, no matter how long it takes, you'll be tracked, you'll be prosecuted and punished for that offense, people will have a second thought, even if the drivers and all the rest are so enticing. So quite a number of factors. And I could remember again, even when I was in service, way back, I can't remember precisely which year, but it has just before the exercise sharing Harvey, particularly in the northwest, then Harvey and Kunama, you know, in Zamfara state. I think during the tenure of late President Muhammad Buhari, we have seen the movement of these insurgents from the northeast, particularly camping somewhere around Bauchi, La Mebura, you know, forest and all the rest. And of course, we know there were sleeper cells, especially in the north central, particularly in Kogi and all the rest. And that is why, and you look at the geography, Kogi, Ondo State, and all the rest of the thing, they know. So what did you do about that? And most importantly, anytime you see any security challenges, it emanates from socio-economic environment, the political atmosphere. So these are the issues. So when you address this thing, and we talked about one aspect about infrastructures, we know that one of the most staying powers of the Nigerian society, it is not the mineral resources, it is the human resources. And we know that almost 67% of the population of this country, they are youth. So what do you do with the youth? How do you channel their energy so that it will be positively enhanced? All you need to do, unfortunately, you are always in the studio in the early morning hours. You need to take a drive out of Abuja, maybe to go to as far as, let's say, 70, 80 kilometers out of Abuja in the morning. You'll be so shocked to see the army of youth unemployed by the roadside. Now, these are ready-made, you know, potential material for this insurgent group. And by the way, Dr. Kabiru Adam has told you about the issue of, you know, influence and all the rest. And you know, it being a media personnel, you know, basically to gain attention and all the rest in the media space and the publicity, basically there are two gates, the King's Gate and the Deviant Gate. The King's Gate is the normative way that you aspire through constitutional provisions, you are elected, or you work so hard, you'll be appointed and all the rest. But the insurgents, they will rather use the Deviant Gate upon something spectacular to attract attention. And the thing is that the insurgent is more or less like fish and water. Let's assume the insurgents are the fish. They only strive when there is water. So the fish for the insurgents is the people.
From what you're saying, does it mean that the fight so far and the money spent in the bid to end this has been in the wrong direction?
No, it is not. And that is why I gave you an example of Colombia, that we are able to achieve what they were unable to achieve within 30 years, within 15 years. I gave you that example. But that notwithstanding, but unfortunately, we tend to neglect this aspect. And part of the problem is that I happen to go to so many parts of the country, and that is why sometimes if there is a problem, take for instance in Damaturu, the person in Yenagoa, in fact not even in Yenagoa, here in Buhari, seems to have a lackadaisical attitude towards it.
You feel unconcerned.
Exactly. Not knowing that an injury against one is an injury against all. So basically, that is what I want you to understand. So much as you are doing this, but you neglected some other aspect, which is the issue of socio-economic development. And in fact, even we are talking about state police and all the rest, and we are using the worst examples. Take, for instance, the United States has the best police, has the old, but look at the number of killings per day. So, but the truth is that the policing system has to do with improving the socio-economic well-being of an average citizen so that he or she will not be enticed into criminal activities. And if you are deprived, your moral principles will be affected because you are a family man, you wake up in the morning with nothing to eat, with nowhere to go to. And here is somebody who has criminal tendencies and offer you certain things with certain conditionalities, you start waving them up.
When you say socio-economic factors, let's look at Borno as an example. I mean, in the news, maybe you can tell us for a fact what you see on the ground. In the news, we see that the present governor, has tried to do a lot, to alleviate the plight of the people in that state, to relocate, those who were displaced. We see schools being built. We see farmers.
I will even help you with more with data statistics
so why has that not helped in all of
in
this?
Fact,
is it that it's not enough?
I am also asking the same question, and unfortunately, some people tend to misunderstand me. Thankfully, Kabiru has raised an issue, irrespective of, the non-state actors or the insurgents and the people. Here are people that went to a mosque in a predominantly Muslim society, detonated bomb and killed so many people. And here are people who claim to be good people, seems to be elogizing the criminal. So you begin to ask questions. I'm not being sentimental, but I was saying, okay, Borno State carried the flag in terms of good governance in this country, whether we like it or not. Not because I know the governor or I am associated. Anyway, I've taken Borno as my second home, given the relationship and all the rest. He's doing marvelously well. But why is it that some people, in fact, when I raised an issue, irrespective of what happened when the insurgents were attacking, is it Konduga? Some unscrupulous elements were caught, giving, directions to the insurgents. 2 of them are right now being investigated with evidence, documented evidence. They were giving them, no, follow this, follow that. In what the military will call 12-figure grid references. When you say 12-figure, that is pinpointing precisely where the military. So here is the government doing so much. And you know that they are going to kill people. And yet you are helping them. What motivates them? So this is one question that then the answer to that is the issue of strategic communication. Beyond the physical aspect of it, we are supposed to also really win the hearts and minds of the people so that they will understand that these people do not mean well. It is the government that means well. And the military or the security forces are sacrificing. There are some people that have not seen their families for the past 5 days. You can imagine if you lose your phone now, all hell will be lost. Will be lost. But here is someone that has not seen his mother, he has not, just for you to live in peace. So all he or she needs is your support and cooperation. So we have to really work on that aspect, and we have not. And coincidentally, I'm a doctoral student, and my thesis is on strategic communication. And honestly, just like he pointed out, we really need to work on this aspect to make people understand that, look, these people do not mean well. Yusuf started as a preacher. At the end of the day, what happened? How many people have died over the years?
Okay.
So these are the kind of things that we need to talk about. So they are the one that brought about the issue of suppress that you have talked about. And basically, what is it? We have politicized security issues.
Okay.
By the time you gather, elite Nigerians, 5 or 7 of them, depending, you will see that they are divided in almost everything. And it shouldn't be so.
Okay. Thank you very much, General. I mean, you've raised a lot of issues. And the issue still borders on the issue of trust. Because government is doing so much. And the subnationals too, they are trying their best. But it now lies in how do we bring back the trust between the government and the people. That is bringing in the community efforts now, because people are saying that the fight is not only the military, but everybody. We have to join hands. Someone said that the gun can silence a village, only jobs can answer it. And that takes us to the issue of social, economic, and political challenges that we are facing right now. So how do we begin to build that trust? Because we know that there are successes recorded by the military as well. It's not that they are not making successes. They are. But the issue of trust now and this social, challenge? How do we begin to tackle it?
The truth of it is that trust is earned. You can't demand for it. You have to earn it. And how do you earn it? By demonstrating in very clear terms that the ethos of your function is to serve that person. If he would see it, and he would, automatically start trusting you. But then there are so many components to that, and I think if you look at the current national security apparatus and also tie it to our development plans as well as our budget, there have been attempts. What I'm not sure, even though I think General has kind of mentioned it, is the challenge of implementation. Not too long ago, there was, I think it was the National Economic Council that organized a conference between the federal government and the state governments. And the idea was to look at the 5-year development plan and to see how these two levels of government will implement the plan to address some of the socio-economic conditions. The beauty of the Nigerian situation is that these things are known. All the conversations we're having are embedded in certain policies that government already has. So as an example, the 5-year development plan, I think the Renewed Hope development plan, and the budget, the 2026 budget, as well as the role of the Ministry of Budget and Planning, is to make sure every policy, including the budget, this 5-year development plan, is tied to addressing the socio-economic conditions. And I must commend the Tinubu administration for some of the policies it has introduced. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, we have a commission for out-of-school children. Even though, again, the challenge is implementation. Just around the Eid period, I was driving within Abuja, and this very young boy, probably aged 9 or 10, although it's very difficult because of the conditions that they are subjected to for you to just look at them physically and determine their age. But physically, that boy looks 9, 10, alone, in very dirty clothes, came and was begging. And my family were in the car, and the question was, do you give? If you give, you are encouraging. If you don't give, your conscience will bug you. But then the bigger question is this: what happens to the future of this boy? He is either, as a society, we take care of him, or he becomes the next Beluturji. Now, I'm also aware that commission on out-of-school children and Almajiri, whatever, has implemented a model scheme with the FCT administration here in Abuja, with the idea that model scheme would be it will be extended to other states of the federation. Now, if within the period that model scheme is being implemented, you still have children like that on the street, then it tells you that there is a gap. And I think this is what we need to address. All of these policies that I've mentioned, including the 5-year development plan, including the 2026 budget, at what point as a country are we sitting, looking at the screen, doing evaluation to say, okay, these are some of the gaps? Because if you're talking of socioeconomic conditions, there are so many components to that socioeconomic condition. Out-of-school children is one of them, the poverty level, unemployment, migration. When you sit on the Suleja route or any of our major highways and see the number of young economic migrants moving from point A to point B, I mean, as a people, we should be worried about that. So look at that screen, and I'm hoping that the presidency is able to do that, be able to look at that screen, tie all the strands together and say, okay, these are gaps, these are areas that we need to improve upon. But in summary, the government is doing a lot. I talked about the summit that was held earlier. I think it was in February, early February. I can't remember the precise date, but I was there as a panelist, and I know that governors from all over the state federation attended. All the ministers were there. The president attended. The vice president, who is the chairman of that council, was there. So a lot is being done, but the challenge is that holistic look to be able to say we're doing well in this area, but we're not doing well in this particular area. How do we enhance our effort? How do we make sure the subnationals? General spoke about the local government administration. What is stalling the desire by this administration to give autonomy to the local government. As long as we don't address this issue of lack of governance at that very basic level, subnational, I'm sorry to say it will be very difficult for us to make progress in security. The nexus between security and development is related to that. If we don't enhance local government administration in such a manner that the basics, health, education, shelter, is provided at that very granular level, because that's the answer to trust. If the people can feel the impact of governance, we don't need to demand trust from them. They will automatically, for any of us here who knows, there's a place called Boki in Cross River. I think Patrick will probably know Boki. It's in the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon. I had the good fortune of visiting Boki a couple of years ago. And, you know, it will give you the picture of the challenge that we have as a country. Boki, like I said, is on the border between Nigeria, it's in Cross River State, between Nigeria and Cameroon. On the Nigerian side, no health facility, no educational facility, in fact, nothing. I remember the traditional ruler sitting me down and saying, my son, if you are able to get us a health facility or an educational facility, and then he prayed. But believe me, the moment you cross into the Cameroonian side, the first thing you see is a primary school with every paraphernalia of government in terms of the flag, in terms of the coat of arms, right there. It's symbolic. But on our side, nothing. So this is, and then the amazing thing is that we have a boundary commission. We have, in fact, there is no arm of government that we lack in Nigeria. But the challenge, I think, is implementation. We have to have that dashboard that allows government, because in modern days, and I must speak about the role of the presidential advisor on policy and coordination. She's doing an amazing job. She's been able to create a system at the moment, even though it's work in progress, to allow for the monitoring of progress in this manner, but it must be extended into the presidency to be able to have what I would call a dashboard, because it's doable in today's world with technology. You should be able to, in real time, be able to look at all these components of governance and see where gaps. As long as we don't do this and we allow these socioeconomic conditions to remain as they are at the very granular level, which is the local government and ward level, then it will be very difficult to make progress.
So I'm thinking that if these gaps are deliberate, if we have these gaps deliberately,
I don't think so.
I'm just a question I'm asking. I mean, you hear amounts of money being disbursed every month, you know, to different states.
From
do you understand? Yet you don't see anything on the ground. You hear about MOUs being signed, these being earmarked, but you never get to earmark them and all of that. So are these gaps deliberate? And then, you know, is there a system benefiting from all of this? I'm tempted to ask this because, I mean, we've heard stories of, he just told us about how people guide these insurgents, you know, to do the things they do. And some of these people are in our security outfits, or if you like, maybe the military, or I don't know, but a part of the security system. So we hear that some are in government and all. So is this benefiting a group of people? To what end? And then these gaps, can they really be closed anyway?
These gaps can be closed if there is a commitment by people who are in such position. For instance, what you're trying to say now is that we have a lot of collaborators who all what they think about is their own immediate benefit. They don't think about the general benefit. Some believe that some are they are merchants of crime. They make a whole lot of money when there are insecurity. So no matter whatever you are doing that is right, they will look for a way to circumvent it so that it can benefit their personal pocket. It has to be the individual. It's not a systemic thing, but it's personal thing that some people believe that in a crisis situation, it's best benefits they must get from it, and that is one aspect of it. Then secondly is the issue about the the ruler and the led, the leader and the led. In some people, they believe that let's subject those led, to a position where they will always depend on us, or where they will always look up to us to provide some succor, and that is creating some disconnect. And that immediately can be capitalized by the non-state actors and take away the lead to its side, and it becomes a problem to you, the leader, which is what we're experiencing right now. So you could say that, yes, sometimes some people deliberately circumvent this situation, what is on ground, to their own personal benefit, while some believe that it's a way for them to continue capturing the lead, to make sure that they remain subjected to them. And so they don't care to what effect, but they will always look up to me, at all time and depend. Then, but when there is a problem, then they start crying for solution and going to those people that they have been subjected to the lowest level to assist by, and that they will never provide any information. Socioeconomic issues are major driver to some of these factors, because when you neglect someone today, like he talked about the child and all that, when you let that child grows up to see that the society don't care about him, and so it's a tool that could be used against the society itself. And social injustice can cause anybody to do anything.
So in your own view, do you think Nigeria is sincere about this fight against insurgency? Because you talked about the young man on the street. We know that there's a system that operates in certain parts of this country where young children are being sent from their homes deliberately to go learn one thing or the other somewhere else without nothing. How they'll feed, what they'll wear, nothing. And it still stands. Governments are still supporting such, right? We're in a country where people are still being married. We celebrate, you just gather people, whether or not they have jobs to take care of themselves. We celebrate mass weddings, and then they go on and procreate, and then, the system just continues. So are we deliberate in this fight of insurgency? Or you think that we're just treating it with kid gloves, like, just cosmetic fight?
You see, the problem about the fight against insurgency to the average Nigerian thinking that the military action will do it alone. Some of these factors are those things that had made it to continue. While the military are doing so much, they have done so creatively well, more than any other country, I can tell you that. But the environment we have is very fast in reproducing more of these insurgents. The situation you just pointed out, two different, and these are the traditions of some people who feel that instead of leaving young girls to be roaming without husbands, or with young men without wives and all that, and creating some kind of moral problems and all that, why don't they get married? They try to solve a problem, but meanwhile creating a bigger problem. Again, because the products of those marriages, what happened to them? Nobody cares. The other people want the children to be morally sound by sending them to go and learn religious, without caring about what about their upkeep, what about their trade. So when you try to solve a problem and you're creating a much bigger problem for the society, that is where so there need to be some reforms. They are not only about government reform. We need to look at some of all these traditions or these cultures and see how they can continue to fit into the modern situation we are today. Unlike before, where the society care for a child, that the society can take care of a child. But today, people are caring about their own family because of the paucity of some funds. Nobody, in fact, the parent who sent the child away to go and learn maybe think that is a solution because he doesn't even have enough. So the child can go and fend for himself. But meanwhile, you are sending the child to become a problem to the society.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Pambo. We need to take a break now. When we come back, we already have some comments and questions from our viewers, which we'll read out for our guests to respond to. So stay with us.
Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the worrisome increase in the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The FSRCC and NBC hereby advises the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Make sure to verify the licensing status of such companies and schemes on this website. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call CBN 0817-665-7060, SAC 0209-462-1168, 0916-772-3240. Let's work together to uphold the integrity of Nigeria's financial system. Announcer, FSRCC.
Are you ready? Join us on Reshaping Democracy, a groundbreaking program on the network service of the NTA, where citizens get the chance to ask ministers, heads of ministerial departments, agencies, and other top government officials questions on their performance and delivery of mandates. With no sector of limits, conversations build around bridging communication gaps for feedback and effect as our guests engage with the people they serve.
How does ND foster partnerships with organizations, government agencies, NGOs, among others?
As our leaders give account to citizens' inquiries on good governance, tune in to Reshaping Democracy, a creative concept coming up every Tuesday evening at 10:05 p.m.
This is Reshaping Democracy.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And the conversation is still on sustaining the fight against insurgency. Our guests are still here and would like to read out some of the questions and comments that we have gotten or received from you, our viewers. This one is from, okay, the name is not there. He just said, good morning all. We must encourage Nigerians to come together at wherever community they find themselves for Operation Identify and Know Your Neighbors. We need serious mindset reorientation. NOA must wake up. Thank you all. Now this from Nadom Wuye from Jos, that's our regular. And he says, whatever you allow is what will continue. The fight against insurgency must be backed by absolute loyalty and trust. There are growing concerns over internal sabotage and the urgent need for tighter intelligence monitoring within the ranks to prevent future breaches and preserve the integrity of ongoing counter-terrorism operations. In order to fully achieve this, I also think the negative service rivalry, which is leading to a failure to cooperate optimally, should also be addressed amongst our security agencies. Our best should be the agencies tackle this form of rivalry. To the guests, thank you for your service. Have a good morning. God bless Nigeria. Now, this from Okechukwu Okorie. He says, good morning, Nigeria. Insurgency in Nigeria is as a result of foreign economic sabotage on Nigeria's solid minerals. Study has shown us that all the places we have insurgency in Nigeria have one precious solid mineral illegally mined by foreigners who supply terrorists with weapons and take away the precious solid minerals. Well, that's another point. Nigeria government should try to develop infrastructures to control mining of solid minerals in Nigeria. Now, this from another one from Ajayi Tunde Moses from Oroshoki, Lagos. Good morning, gentlemen and lady. Talking about insurgency generally, it's not easy winning them. They have no uniform. They have no permanent abode. They have very strong international support. In Nigeria, their sponsors are very, very untouchable. I believe the government should urgently go after the sponsor. May God help us all. Well, General, we may want to respond to them. And this one says, sustaining the fight cost naira and trust. When you track spending in stabilization zones, what's the ratio of military to social investment now versus 5 years ago? Are we budgeting for peace or we are budgeting for ammunition? General.
Very dicey question. I think let's start from him. First and foremost, I would like to thank them most sincerely for, right from the other person you didn't mention his name, up to Webb, Okori, and Kechiku, right? And the last person that is talking about budgeting for peace. I think the two of them go hand in glove. And when you find yourself with this kind of existential threat, insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, you cannot be oblivious of the fact that you cannot have any meaningful development without peace and security. At the same time, again, you cannot simply put all your eggs in one basket because you have security challenges. You will not think of socio-economic development and well-being of the people. So both of them go hand in glove. And I would like to state that, yes, really the cooperation among the components of the security architecture is fantastic now as compared to the past. And beyond that, there are even, understanding with our regional neighbors, particularly Niger Republic, and of course international community. For example, the unprecedented success, recorded in Malampatori, it was, the efforts of our troops that were further complemented. The ground troops, Operation Hadinkai, that did a marvelous job with the Nigerian Air Force and, of course, the Nigerian Air Force also. And be rest assured that the Americans also provided ISR. In fact, that has led to, elimination of at least 4 key leaders of the Boko Haram terrorists out of the 6 that they were targeting. And I believe by now they must have eliminated the other 2. So you can understand that the level of cooperation and the fact that when you tend to make spurious allegation without substantiating it, it tends to undermine morale. Because I cannot imagine me sacrificing my life and all the rest of them, and you are trying to suspect me. Yeah, definitely the various commanders, they know the strengths and weaknesses of their troops, and that is why we are talking about, organic unit as compared to the rice and beans, bringing here and there. And they are trying to improve on that. Then the other aspect of the issue about infrastructure, they are quite right. I think their observations are quite valid. But I can rest assure you the level of cooperation, the level of resilience on the part of troops is unprecedented, unlike
Are the troops being properly funded?
Very, very well. Because so far that I've heard that they said all the platforms they requested for, they are always being given. But like everything else, you don't have all that you need. Given the fact that the military itself is just one component of the Nigerian society, that you look at the budgetary system and all the rest of them. But I think they were not complaining, even though there is need for more, especially given the fact that the insurgents have upped their game using technology, as it were. So I think there is need beyond surveillance and all the rest that we should also, this surveillance facility should be further armed so that they can, do more work as against, putting the human lives in danger.
What about the issue of the local and international sponsors that they talked about?
Sponsor of, yes. In fact, the question that she was even asking Patrick, and I wanted to tell her that, yes, there is the concept of war economy. Anytime the war economy is an economic system that revolves around any complex situation. And that sometimes people tend to disagree that sometimes some of these wars or conflicts just they happen for the sake of happening, because sometimes they are simulated because people are benefiting. Just look at the insurgency, banditry, and all the rest. Who supply the arms and ammunition? Who provide the intelligence? Who give the logistics? And the instances are common goods and services that you enjoy here. Possibly, yes, Abuja is the most expensive city. I don't know how much a bottle of Coca-Cola is, but we have had instances in Katsina State, in some part where the bandits hold sway, that a bottle of Coca-Cola sells as much as 3,000 naira. Not even talk at this prevailing times that we have this crisis in the Middle East, everything has shut up. And we have had instances that 5 liter of petrol cost as much as 10,000-20,000 about 4 or 3 years ago in, the Northeast. People are benefiting. Some of them, they just look at it as a brisk business. They never knew that this could translate into matter of life and death. So these are the kind of things. We are not even talking about the people that sells the weapons. And it will shock you to see the level of recoveries after the Malampatori, unprecedented feat, in the sense that there are rocket propelled grenades, anti-tank, and all that. Where did they get them from? Who supplied them? Through which means? So people are benefiting from it. And when you talked about the issue of a community paying as much as 100 million, it's part of the way they, fund their insurgency activities. And we have had taxations. In fact, it was a common occurrence in the Northwest, for instance. You pay for protection so that, in fact, if they allow you to farm when it is harvest season, you will still have to. And that is why they have, harvest patrol by the security forces. The armed forces are doing so much that need to be understood, need to be complemented by that. And I made mention of Kikino or in Borno State. For 11 years, people have not visited their ancestral homes, but they were able to go back. Not only that, they are enjoying, social, economic facilities. Say, for instance, to the extent that there is a viewing center in that place. And now economic activities have started. In fact, somebody was saying that goods coming out from that place is almost 9 billion naira because people have started, so we should not downplay the economic benefit of such things. So these are some of the things that when you look at it, when you are talking about budgeting for peace and all the rest, you can imagine a society injecting as much as 9 billion into the Nigerian economy. So definitely there is no greater amount of money, to secure that kind of thing. But of course, everything in life has a price tag.
All right, let's read some more messages that we have. This one is from Mohammed Awal Musa Afamai, Greenwall Observers Limited in Kano. He says, how can Nigeria improve trust and communication channels between local community members and security agencies to increase the efficiency of intelligence gathering and early warning systems? How can Nigeria strengthen local peace committees to address underlying communal conflicts that create security vacuums for insurgents? Good morning, Nigeria. 2 questions there. Another one here says, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, moderators and the guests in the studio. Insurgency in Nigeria is becoming more complex, even though the military and other security agencies are trying their best. However, Nigerians, more especially those within the area affected, should also assist security agencies with useful information of what is happening within their local communities and not to leave everything to government and security agencies. That's from Alhaji Garko in Karusite, Abuja. Another one says, sustaining the fight against insurgency in Nigeria demands a profound recalibration of both civic responsibility and institutional integrity. Security is not the exclusive burden of the state. It is a shared national duty that begins with the vigilance, cooperation, and patriotism of citizens. Equally, the effectiveness of the armed forces and security agencies must be anchored in discipline, professionalism, and unwavering loyalty to the nation. In sum, victory over insecurity requires a unified front, a committed citizenry, a reformed and transparent security apparatus, and a resolute government guided by justice, competence, and national interest. Only through this synergy can lasting peace and stability be secured. That's coming from Omadokuru Kennedy Tiasium, PhD. Thank you so much for your message. Jack Abba from Akodi says, there seems too much exposition during discussion on security matters from where the enemies are learning while they are on their own, keeping silent, doing more damages. Don't you think there should be some level of talk kept away and discussed behind the scenes. Oh, well, have we said too much? We have the Brigadier General here. I don't think we have said too much. Another one here says, good morning.
It's a delicate balance.
To effectively involve the citizens in the war against insurgency and violence, we must create real citizens, emphasize our secular state structure by taking religion and religious sentiments to the background, and declare state of emergency on functional education. Nigeria has hyphenated citizens and extensive saboteurs. We lack the basic ingredients of nation building and insecurity, which are factors not really of poverty, but failure in citizens management and political engineering. And that's from Sir Chris Akwarando. Thank you so much. That's the much we can take. I would just like Dr. Kabiru Adamu and Mr. Patrick Agambu to respond to some of these comments and questions, if possible.
Okay, let me start with one of the questions that you mentioned, mining. The person who sent it tried to create a correlation between locations where illegal minings are taking place and insecurity. And he's right.
Supply of arms and ammunition.
Yeah, he's right. A lot of articles, research has been done to show that correlation by both local and international research centers. And I'm also aware that the government is aware of this. The president has not once, not twice. The Minister of Mineral Resources have also severally. The challenge, however, is in the political will for government, especially at the state level, to put its foot down and say, this is the regulatory stance and this is what we need to do. There is, on the one hand, you have the mining licenses that have been issued, you have artisanal mining, and then you now have this conflict merchants who exploit the gap between the current law that we have at the federal level and then at the state level. There is a lot of discrepancy around there. So I think as a country we need to address it. But then I always say this, follow the money and you'll be able to address the issue. A lot of these mineral resources are sold. They actually export them. That's what is mind-boggling. If it's gold, there's a hotel, I don't want to mention the name. If you sit in the lounge of that particular hotel and see how trading of that gold takes place. And then the same thing in the UAE. Nigerian gold is being sold in the UAE. So follow the money. And of course, some aspect of that money can be traced into people's accounts, and you would know who is behind all of these activities. So it's doable, and I agree with the author. The second point is from your comment is the early warning systems and early response systems. I think we have a lot that is in place at the moment. Fusion centers have been created. The UK supported in Nigeria to create an anti-kidnap, I think not anti-kidnap fusion center that is currently functional. The president has directed not once, not twice, for the creation of 2 fusion centers, started from President Buhari into this current administration. What is the challenge, however, is the activeness of these fusion centers. We have intelligence capabilities that are spread across different organizations. If you restrict yourself to the intelligence community, we have at least 3 very strong and effective intelligence organizations, the NIA, the SSS, and the DIA. But then there is no arm of the security apparatus that we have that don't have an intelligence wing. The question is how much of that intelligence that is being gathered is now sent into that fusion center, and how are we using the intelligence from that fusion center? Sometimes I think we abuse the word intelligence. Intelligence is technical. It's also painstaking. Imagine a jigsaw puzzle, the patience that it would take you to create meaning out of that jigsaw puzzle. So that's what intelligence actually means. Today, you pick up a charter. The charter could be something as random as the eagle is about to land. It may not mean anything to you, but you've documented it somewhere. And then over time, you start unraveling who is the eagle, where is the eagle going to land. That's intelligence. Why? Those imperatives, that's intelligence. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves the basic question. But believe me, the infrastructure, the platforms for harvesting intelligence are already out there in the environment. The only component that I'll probably speak about and encourage us to look more effectively is in terms of ensuring that the local populace, that woman in the market, I always say it, that for us to know that our instruments for counterinsurgency, for all the security challenges that we have are effective, is to go to that woman in a market in Ekpe, in Lagos, or in Dogondaji, my village in Sokoto, and then ask her, does she know who Bello Turji is? If she sees him in the market today, does she have the number to call? If we don't do that, then there is still a gap within this intelligence. So she should be able to know him by face. She should be able to know the number she can call with the confidence that when she calls,
somebody picks.
Apart from somebody picks, that Bello Truji will not come after her and kill her. We must simulate that. We must do a simulation across the 8,000 plus wards, villages, to make sure that everybody in the village has a number that he or she can call if he sees any threat element within the environment. And then I also want to play the devil's advocate to, especially with General here. When he says that our military welfare is well taken care of, I think there are certain areas.
They need more.
Yeah, and it is the more. It is the more that I would like to talk about devil's advocate. And I also recall the commentator who talked about whether we're revealing too much. No, we're not. We're very conscious of what our conversations. We know that there is the strategic, there is the tactical, there is the operational. We've avoided in all our conversations, we've not mentioned tactical.
Doctor, we have to pause you because of time, so that we can have his own side of his
I must commend the respondents because their views, their questions, and their comments quite intelligent, and that shows that Nigerians are actually following and they are concerned. Majority, just a very few that may feel unconcerned. So the questions are quite intelligent, and really to answer them, it's one of the issue which you raised about giving, not giving so much. We are not giving so much. We are being tactical, especially in some of the information we give, not because we know everybody's watching currently. And in terms of the welfare, you see, of the security agencies, they are not getting enough. They should get more than what they are. And the equipment, tell you the depletion of the equipment is so rapid because the more you spend it, the more it's creating. You need to replenish them. And
are we using technology enough?
Yeah, we are using technology to the extent where infrastructure. One of the issue about technology is the technology infrastructure itself. You know, and how much do we have of this infrastructure to be able to effectively use this technology as a lot of people would desire. We are using technology to the level we can, be based on the infrastructure, but not that because we don't have the know-how. We have the know-how. Technology is very, very expensive to acquire, to set up, to deploy. We need to be able to gradually get to that point when these infrastructures can actually work.
All right, we need to round up.
General, your parting shots.
I think first and foremost, I would like to commend you
30 seconds.
for the opportunity. But I can rest assure you, just like I think we need to support the effort of this, security forces. There is limit to which they can do. They are doing the best they can, but we need to support them more. And when I mean support, the various components of Nigerian society, the government and the society as to it.
All right, Dr. Adamo?
Issue of awareness.
All of government and all of society approach. That's what I would recommend. And I also feel that especially Ministry of Information and its various components, they're doing very well, and I must commend you, NTA. I also noticed that the NOA has kind of, we have a rejuvenated NOA, but he must maintain the momentum that he started with. I noticed in the last few weeks a bit of pullback, so that's the kind of engagement. But then the strategic communication component within our national counterterrorism strategy, it has to be given more bite.
All right.
Yeah, of course, awareness is the most important thing. NTA, I must commend NTA doing so much emphasis they are playing on the issue of security, which is the most important issues. And again, the people must be well educated on what they should do. As we speak today, most people don't understand that it's their role. It's not these security forces against these criminals. We all against these enemies of society.
Of state. Thank you so much. Thank you for thinking NTU. And we also thank you for being a part of this conversation. Brigadier General Sani Usman Kokasheka, MNI. I hope I don't get summoned at the end of this. Former Army spokesperson, thank you so much for being our guest, and thank you for sharing your insights. Patrick Agambo, President and CEO, Security Watch Africa Initiatives, thank you once again for being our guest. We do sincerely appreciate you. And of course, the freshest of them all. Don't ask me why I said freshest. Dr. Karmiri Adamu, who is just back from the incubation room.
You're already letting the cat out of the bag.
Thank you.
Security risk management expert and managing director, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited. Thank you so much once again. We appreciate you. All right, so that's our package this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Do your part. Let's keep Nigeria safe. I'm Henry John.
And I'm Adimola Adio. Do have a lovely day.